Hello everyone, welcome aboard. So again we have brought you the new session of Daily Current Affairs Capsule, and this session has been brought to you by Himalaya-IAS classes. If you want to join IAS 2021 batch or KAS exam batch in English or Kannada medium, you can visit us at www.himalaya-iasclasses.com, or you can reach out to us on this given number. So significance of the current affairs before we get started with the session. In the prelims, you have straightforward questions from the current affairs. In the mains, current affairs topics are asked directly as well as indirectly in the question. In essay, it is very important where you have to write multiple dimensions of any topic for your opinion building, and most of the interview questions are related to the current affairs topics. How we are going to utilize this session for civil services exam, we'll tell you first which news articles to be read from the Hindu, then we'll tell you from which part of the syllabus they can be connected with, and also we'll tell you the exam important facts or points from the article. So let's get started with the very first news. It's about the PLA, Chinese People's Liberation Army. It has pulled back from the Galwan site. So we all know that Galwan is a site in Ladakh region of India, along the LAC, where the clashes between the two armies has taken place in the month of June. So syllabus wise, it belongs to the relations between the two countries. So part of international relations in the prelims. International relation is the part of GS paper 2 in the mains examination. So the points which are important for us is India and China have begun the process of disengagement at the contentious locations along the disputed line of actual control. So see, India and China have the border during the colonial time, which is known as McMahon Line. But after the 1962 war, the status quo between the two countries is along this line of actual control. So the line of actual control is actually between India and China. Please do remember this point. Also, Pangong Tso is another site where this disengagement process has to take place. So some tents have been removed from the Finger 4 areas, and PLA has moved back from some distance. So Pangong Tso is again a saltwater lake located in Ladakh region, which is divided between actually India and China, and Finger areas are related to Pangong Tso. So please do remember these points for your prelims. Next important article for today's session is related to Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, or Manrega, MG Narega as it is known. So a lot of families have reached the Manrega actual work limit. So syllabus wise, it provides rural employment to the people. So it is part of the economy. Economy is the part of general studies paper 3. So at least 1.5 lakh poor rural households have already completed their quota of 100 days. So one thing for you to remember is Manrega Act, which enacts this rural job guarantee scheme. It provides 100 days of employment to all the people, okay, to the every household in the rural areas. Now this article has come up because of this lockdown situation. A lot of laborers, they have went back to their home, they have lost their livelihood. So a lot of people have completed this quota of 100 days. So there is a need of more days or more funding allocation for this scheme, so that employment can be provided to the people. Okay, the MG Narega scheme contains a provision for districts affected by drought or other natural disaster to request the expansion of the scheme for to allow it for 150 days. So this pandemic which has affected India, this can be declared as a disaster, and under this it can be extended for another 50 days. So please do remember 100 days of guaranteed employment under MG Narega plus 50 more days can be given in the situation of drought or disaster. Next article today talks about coronavirus, which is airborne now. A lot of scientists have recommended this to WHO, and WHO is looking into this report. So prelims wise, it is part of science, how a virus spreads, and mains science is part of general studies paper 3, not 2. So till now WHO has said that SARS-CoV-2, okay, acute respiratory syndrome, severe acute respiratory syndrome, coronavirus 2, virus that causes COVID-19, spreads primarily through small droplets expelled from the nose or mouth of an infected person. Okay, and it quickly sinks to the ground, and that's why no airborne transmission. But now a lot of scientists across the world, more than 200, they have recommended WHO that there are tiny droplets which keep floating in the air, and thus it makes the coronavirus an airborne disease as well. Okay, so it is looking into it, WHO, and soon you might see an update related to this. Next article today talks about India's foreign relation and the course of history. So prelims wise part of IR, mains wise it is part of general studies paper 2. So here you can use as points while writing your answers or essays. There is nothing related to the prelims examinations. So basically the article argues that China is an expansionist power. Expansionist power refers to those which try to expand their area, okay, which tries to annex the territory of other countries. Then the article talks about the Nehrus handling of China, how he misassessed or how he not correctly assessed the Chinese threat, okay, and which resulted into the loss of territories in the 1962 India-China war. Okay, then it talks about foreign policy. These are the nice points which, if you want, you can note down for your answer writing purpose. Foreign policy is essentially a domestic policy, and this is true of all the governments everywhere at all the time. See, whatever happens in your country domestically, if Indian population is demanding, let us say we have to go annex the Nepal, basically the government has to listen to it, otherwise some other government will come, they will be voted out. So basically it's the domestic policy which will be deciding your foreign policy. Another important point from the article is, see, nobody is good or bad. All the government, whenever they are in power in prevailing circumstances, as best they try to protect the national interest as best as they can. After all, national interest is which government of the day it decides, and it tries to protect it. So article basically says that even we can point out the mistake which we have done in the past, but blaming any single person for that, or even when it comes to the case of the present government, is not a good strategy, because end of the day every government is trying to protect the national interest as well as defining the national interest. Next article talks about the situation of police administration in the country, the Kanpur incident which has taken place. So syllabus wise, part of internal security. Internal security is part of general studies paper 3. So we all know that in Kanpur, 8 policemen have died in a clash between some gangsters and police officers. So nexus between politics, crime and policing in many parts of the country. That's what this article highlights. It's not a lone case in the Kanpur only. The quality of policing, therefore, has an outsized impact on the overall quality of the governance. See, if your law and order is good, then your administration can go on. Without having a proper law and order administration, which is maintained by the police in India, you cannot have other administrative activities which can go on. If people are killing people, then you cannot talk about the development in that area. So it also highlights some of the challenges faced by the Indian police system, which is poor training of the police personnel, alienating and dehumanizing work environment of the police personnel, corruption which is involved there, and lack of resources, which is adding to the crisis in the policing. So basically, if you have to write from the mains perspective, the challenges faced by the police department in India, you can take these points from this article. The next article talks about the rolling back of the induced livelihood stock. Basically, it talks about the employment for the people who have returned back to their place because of this COVID lockdown. So prelims, it is part of the economy, mains, it is part of general studies paper 3. So it says that specific policy measures are needed to reverse the lockdown created trauma, means where the people have gone back and it can lead to the increased poverty. The article tells you about periodic labor force survey, which is conducted by NSSO. Please remember this, that 42% or around 56 crore people were officially poor before the lockdown, and the lockdown has increased this number. Okay, and this phenomena is known as poverty deepening. Those who were already poor are going to suffer further worsening in their quality of life. This phenomena is known as poverty deepening. So please remember this. Sometimes UPSC just asked in the prelims, poverty deepening refers to what, and they'll give you certain definitions which will be very much similar. Okay, so poverty deepening means somebody who is already poor, they'll become more poor. That is known as poverty deepening. So what can be done in order to remove or elevate this poverty from the Indian masses, which has increased manifold during this lockdown? We can utilize the MG Narega. We can provide at least food security to all the households in India by applying a universal public distribution system. As of now, we have a targeted public distribution system. Then also we have to look for the urban employment scheme on the lines of MG Narega. See, MG Narega provides rural employment. Okay, so we need a similar scheme for urban employment also, so that people who are living in poverty in the urban areas can be employed in the constructive works which can be utilized for the development of, let us say, infrastructure or other facilities. Next article talks about WHO. So WHO is under criticism because of its changing stances again and again. Donald Trump is criticizing again and again WHO because of its handling of COVID, or mishandling, as you may call it. Okay, so syllabus wise, it's an international agency, so part of international relation, and international relation is the part of general studies paper 2. So WHO seems to be at the mercy of powerful nations while obtaining relevant information. That's the core argument of this article. Why? Because WHO had to keep praising China so that it shares information. Powerful nations cannot be allowed to endanger the lives of the world by shirking the responsibility. See, basically it is trying to say that from obtaining the information related to COVID from China, the WHO had to praise it, or it had to depend on China. So an international agency which is responsible for the global handling of the health sector, it had to have so much power so that it can at least extract the information in a transparent way and then transfer it to other people who can be possibly in danger because of such a threat. Next article talks about before the next health crisis, we must look at the problems of air pollution as well as the greenhouse gas emission, which has come down because of this lockdown which was applied in India as well as in many parts of the world, and which is the cause of many other problems which we keep facing. So this is related to the environmental science, and environmental science is the part of general studies paper 3. So we must urgently confront the air pollution and global warming and strengthen the health system. See, basically the article says that the disease probability of the population, it increases because of air pollution. The global warming, which is causing the climate change, that is also increasing the instance of diseases. So to control the disease in the longer run, we have to curb these two, and simultaneously we have to strengthen our health system so that in a situation of such a pandemic situation, we can respond to it properly. So some data facts which it has given, that globally 9 million, means 90 lakh premature deaths happens every year because of air pollution. Okay, 14 out of world 20 most polluted cities are in India. So you can imagine how big a threat is this. And then greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide, they are causing global warming, and this global warming causes climate change, which in turn triggers so many events. You talk about this locust swarm which came to India. You talk about the outbreaks of disease like malaria, dengue, which happens during the rainy seasons. That all is related to somewhere to the climate change, which happens because of global warming. So that's why we need to take care of these two long-term threats, and along with strengthening our health system so that in future we can respond to the threats. Also, another fact or data point which you can use in your answers is India is world 5th most vulnerable country to the climate change. Okay. Next article, it talks about the Bhopal Zardozi artists who are facing problems because of lockdown and then the restriction on imports from the China. So for us, from art and culture, they usually ask this art belongs to which area, which is part of general studies paper 2. So Zardozi, you all should know that it is an embroidery art, okay, art which is done on the clothings, and that is of MP, Madhya Pradesh. So please do remember these two facts about Zardozi. Next article talks about the opium seizures in India. So in India, the 5th largest opium seizures has taken place. So this report has come. This is part of the internal security. Previously also in the mains, a question has been asked. Internal security is related to the general studies paper 3. So the 4th highest seizure of opium happened in India in 2018. Okay. The countries from where larger opium was seized was Iran, Afghanistan and Pakistan, and this all data has been published in the World Drug Report of United Nations Office on Drug and Crime. So please do remember this report, guys. Every year in the prelims, one report is asked. So World Drug Report is published by United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. Okay. So for us, the points for prelims, what we can take from the article is it talks about the opium products. So opium actually, morphine is created from opium. It is a drug which is used by the people as well as it is used in the medicinal purpose, and heroin, that is also created from morphine. Okay, so ultimately poppy creates heroin as well as morphine. Also Asia, why India's vulnerability is more to this threat is because 90% of the global illicit opium production happens in the Asia. Also, it is the largest consumption market for opium products, where 80% of the opium products have been seized. Next article talks about the Chinese investment. So government has said that it is going to review the 50 investment proposal from Chinese firm. So again, part of the economy, foreign direct investment or the investment from other country, and mains economies paper, part of general studies paper 3. See, the basic issue here is during this lockdown, a lot of Indian firms, they were not able to survive themselves, and taking advantage of that situation, a lot of Chinese investors, they were trying to take over the Indian firms. So that's what has been pointed out to the government, and the government has made new rules in the April month itself, where all the investment by entities based in the neighboring countries. So see, you don't have too much of investment from Pakistan, Afghanistan, Nepal, Bhutan, or Bangladesh. It's basically China. It need to be approved by the government first. Okay. So even if you are going to, let us say, in a sector where FDI is automatic approval, FDI is under automatic approval route, then also it has to go to the government if it is from a neighboring country, meaning China, and then it will be reviewed, and then only it will be allowed. So this policy basically, or this new rule has been brought up in order to stop Chinese firms from taking over the Indian firms who are facing difficulties during the problem of lockdown. So that was it for today's session, guys. This is the list of do's and don'ts which you can follow in order to maximize your chances of selection. Please do not forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel, and to press the bell icon so that you can get notified whenever we upload any new video. So please stay tuned for more updates. Thanks a lot for watching.